My name is Miguel Figueroa, and I'm the leader of the Communist Party of Canada. Mr. Harper has been running around the country for the past several weeks, saying that Canada needs a stable majority government. Well, we agree. We do need a majority in Parliament, but certainly not the kind of majority that Mr. Harper and the Conservatives have on offer. We need a majority in Parliament that truly reflects both the concerns and the interests of the majority of the people, not one that's dedicated primarily to the interests of a privileged few. And if we had proportional representation in this country, we would come closer to that goal. We need a majority that puts the interests of the people before profit, and the needs of the people before corporate greed. You know, since the year 2000, the profits, net profits, of the largest corporations in this country have increased 150% to $250 billion a year. How many people in this room or in the streets and workplaces across this country have seen that kind of increase in their net income over the past 10 years? We need a majority government that puts forward a foreign policy based on peace and disarmament, and that cuts the bloated military budget, not one that enmeshes us in wars such as the immoral, costly, and thoroughly unwinnable war in Afghanistan, the war of occupation in Afghanistan, and is now part of the bombing of Libya to serve primarily oil interests of the West. A government that spends taxpayers' monies like a drunken sailor on F-35s and warships and other weapons of death and destruction. We need a majority government that takes real steps to reverse deindustrialization in our country and creates permanent, full-time, and well-paying jobs, both in value-added industries and also in services for people. Services like publicly administered and financed national child care program, which is affordable for all Canadian families. Programs to invest in research and development for renewable energy. Programs that address the concerns and the blight of poverty throughout this country, including and especially amongst Aboriginal peoples. Not one that stands idly by while employers eliminate jobs, shut down plants, or even when they create jobs, create temporary, part-time, and other precarious forms of employment. We need a government that protects and enhances the environment and takes real measures to combat carbon emissions, the cause of global climate change. We need a government that launches a war on poverty in this country, not a war on crime. Not one that wants to build more prisons and put more cops on the street, but rather addresses the roots of many of our social ills in our society. A government that defends and enhances democratic rights. Not one that has contempt for the people who protest in the streets, and in fact tries to criminalize dissent, and even flaunts democratic procedure within the House of Commons itself. Tries to muzzle its own caucus and gag its own scientists from speaking to the people. We need a government that defends and enhances the rights of women in this country, including the right to equal pay for work of equal value, for employment equity, and in defense of their reproductive rights. And we need a government that defends Canadian sovereignty, which is increasingly under attack. And we're not going to get that government on May 2nd. That may seem like a bold prediction, but I think I am on sound ground. But we can take the first step towards that by ensuring that the Tories don't get the majority and in fact are defeated from the government benches in Ottawa. But that struggle will continue after May 2nd, and it will take place on the streets of this country, in the workplaces of this country. Now, there's been a lot of talk about coalitions during this election campaign. Fear-mongering, in fact, that somehow coalitions are anti-democratic. Well, I have coalitions in Germany. Right now there's a coalition government in Britain, in France, and many other countries around the world. I don't see Stephen Harper coming out and attacking them as being anti-democratic. But we are also in favor of a coalition, but not necessarily a coalition in Parliament at first blush, although it may come to that. We need a people's coalition, a grassroots coalition that brings together all of the social forces of the people, the labor movement, the Aboriginal movement, the women's movement, youth and students, seniors, the social organizations, anti-poverty groups and so on, environmental movement, and comes forward with a comprehensive alternative to these policies that have persisted under both liberal and especially conservative governments for the past many decades. Neoconservative, neoliberal, whatever you want to call them. That's the kind of coalition that we're in favor of. And that is the first step towards real fundamental change in this country and towards socialism. And we invite everybody here and listening across the country, I don't know how much the media coverage is, but in any case, to check out our policies and to go to our website, www.votecommunist.ca. Thank you very much.